Iridian raiders had to learn the hard way, never to fuck with human children. Reptilian claws slashed through the few adult colonists on New Eden, the aliens slaughtering young Joshua Ward's family and friends without mercy. The massive, battle-scarred Iridian Gruss grabbed Joshua's wife Emma by the throat. Joshua covered his children, Liam and Arya's eyes, as Gruss tore out Emma's throat with his teeth. The aliens took children prisoners to turn them into slaves, a horrific fate worse than death. Joshua hid in the brush with only 12-year-old Liam and 9-year-old Arya, watching in horror. The aliens gathered all 28 colony children, even little 6-year-old Max. Gruss announced he would turn them into slave labor on Iridia Prime, building weapons to destroy more human worlds. Joshua had to stop this. He was unarmed, but the ex-soldier still had his training. He had to move fast and smart. Humanity needed a victory here. The Iridians had raided over a dozen colonies this year. Weakened Earth could not keep taking these losses. Joshua swore these children would not be made into slaves. He would bring them home or die trying. He owed it to his wife, his kids, all those butchered colonists. Humanity needed to stand up and fight. Joshua pressed his forehead against Liam's, his eyes intense. "Take your sister and hide in the caves. You know the way." He pressed his personal comm into the boy's shaking hands. "Find the emergency frequency and call for help. Don't stop until you reach someone. Understand?" Liam nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Dad, I'm scared." "I know, son, but you have to be brave now, for Arya, for all of us." Joshua hugged his children fiercely before ushering them into the brush. As they disappeared from view, he turned back to the ruined settlement, his face hardening with resolve. He moved silently through the wreckage, gathering what weapons and supplies he could from the fallen colonists: plasma rifle, kinetic pistol, vibro knife. At his hidden cache, he donned his old military exoskeleton. The familiar weight settled on his frame, the suit's systems humming to life. Enhanced strength, enhanced speed. He was ready. Under the cover of night, Joshua crept towards the Iridian ship. His intimate knowledge of the settlement's layout allowed him to slip aboard unseen. Inside, he found the children huddled in a holding cell, guarded by 3 Iridian soldiers. His training kicked in. Vibro knife in hand, he struck like a shadow, 3 quick slashes. 3 bodies hit the floor. As he freed the children, alarms blared to life. Gruss burst into the room, flanked by 8 heavily armed warriors. Plasma fire filled the air. Joshua leapt into action, his exoskeleton granting him superhuman agility. He wove between the Iridians, his rifle spitting death. 1 down, 2, 3. But Gruss was on him, the alien's natural armor deflecting Joshua's shots. They clashed in a brutal dance, vibro knife against razor claws. Sparks flew as they traded blows, neither giving ground. Around them, the ship descended into chaos. The children ran for the escape pods, dodging plasma blasts and fallen bodies. Joshua fought with the fury of a father wronged, holding the line against the Iridian onslaught. Gruss lunged, his claws seeking Joshua's throat. The human parried, his knife scoring the alien's hide, but Gruss was relentless, his strength unmatched. He bore down on Joshua, a mountain of muscle and rage. Joshua's exoskeleton groaned under the strain. Warning lights flashed across his visor. He was losing ground, inch by bloody inch. Gruss grinned, his teeth stained with Emma's blood. "I will wear your skull as a trophy, human," the alien snarled, "right next to your mates." Something snapped in Joshua. A primal scream tore from his throat as he surged forward. Vibro knife aimed at Gruss's eye. The Iridian roared in pain, staggering back. Joshua pressed his advantage, raining down blows with all his might. But even as Joshua rained down blows on Gruss, the reptilian monster's natural armor deflected the vibro knife strikes. Gruss laughed, a horrible gurgling sound, as he wrapped his claws around Joshua's throat and squeezed. Joshua choked, his vision blurring as he struggled against the alien's iron grip. The exoskeleton's systems blared warnings. The suit pushed beyond its limits. Just as Joshua felt his strength fading, a small figure leapt onto Gruss's back. It was Max, the youngest of the colony children. The boy had fashioned a crude shiv from a piece of metal debris, and he plunged it into Gruss's eye with all his might. The Iridian roared in agony, his grip on Joshua loosening. Seizing the moment, Joshua drove his vibro knife up under Gruss's chin, the blade humming as it sliced through flesh and bone. Gruss convulsed, his lifeblood pouring out in a torrent of blue. Then he went still, his body slumping to the floor. Joshua staggered to his feet, his exoskeleton sparking and smoking. He gathered the children, herding them towards the ship's exit. They emerged into the chaos of the ruined settlement, where a fierce battle raged between the colonists and the remaining Iridians. Liam and Arya had not only managed to contact Earth's military, but they had also rallied the survivors. Armed with scavenged weapons, the ragtag group of civilians fought with the desperation of those with nothing left to lose. Joshua and the children joined the fray, plasma fire and kinetic rounds crisscrossing the battlefield. The colonists' spirits soared at the sight of their rescued young ones, and they redoubled their efforts against the alien invaders. Overhead, the roar of engines filled the sky as Earth's rapid response force arrived. Dropships disgorged elite soldiers, their advanced weapons cutting through the Iridian ranks. The aliens found themselves caught between the vengeful colonists and the professional military. A pincer maneuver that left them no avenue of escape. The Iridians fell back to their ship, seeking to flee the planet and regroup. But as they tried to take off, the vessel sputtered and died, its systems sabotaged by Joshua during his infiltration. Stranded and surrounded, the remaining aliens had no choice but to lay down their arms and surrender. Joshua limped through the battlefield, his exoskeleton a ruin of twisted metal and sparking wires. He found Liam and Arya amidst the survivors, the three of them embracing fiercely amidst the smoke and carnage. They had won the day, but at a terrible cost. The colony lay in ruins, its people battered and bloodied. But they were alive, they were free. And as Joshua looked out over the gathered survivors, he saw a flicker of hope in their eyes. The Iridians had learned a harsh lesson this day, that humanity would not go quietly into the night. They would fight, they would endure, and they would prevail. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. In the days following the Battle of New Eden, a grim truth came to light. Intercepted Iridian communications revealed a vast network of slave camps and experimentation facilities scattered across their empire. The attack on Joshua's colony was just one small part of a much larger, insidious plot. Earth's government, faced with undeniable evidence of the Iridians' crimes, formally declared war. Joshua stood before the Earth Defense Council, his battered exoskeleton a testament to the horrors he had witnessed. "The Iridians have been stealing our children, subjecting them to unimaginable cruelty," he said, his voice shaking with barely contained rage. "We must act now before more innocent lives are lost." The council members nodded solemnly. They promoted Joshua to captain and granted him command of a new special operations unit tasked with a single critical mission: bring Earth's children home. Joshua's team was small but deadly. Sergeant Mike Thompson, a bear of a man with a scar-riddled face, had fought in more battles than he could count. Corporal Alex Chen, a wiry tech specialist, could hack any system and improvise weapons from scrap. Private Sarah Nakamura, a quiet sniper with ice in her veins, never missed a shot. Together they struck at the heart of the Iridian Empire. They raided slave camps on distant moons, freeing children from squalid cages. They sabotaged supply lines, leaving Iridian soldiers hungry and desperate. They hit weapons factories and research labs, setting back the aliens' war machine. With each mission, Joshua's legend grew. The Iridians learned to fear the name Lion of New Eden, whispered in hushed tones across the stars. But even as Earth's forces pushed deeper into enemy territory, a new threat emerged. Intercepted transmissions hinted at a secret weapon, a doomsday device capable of annihilating entire worlds. If the Iridians completed it, all of humanity's victories would be for nothing. Joshua's team gathered in the briefing room, the holographic display casting an eerie glow on their faces. "This is it," Joshua said, his eyes hard as steel. Our most important mission yet. We infiltrate the weapons facility on Iridia Prime, steal the plans for this planet killer, and destroy the production line. Sergeant Thompson cracked his knuckles. Just another day at the office, eh, Cap? Corporal Chen fiddled with his datapad. I'll need to bypass some serious security systems, biometric scanners, quantum encryption. Private Nakamura simply nodded, her rifle already slung over her shoulder. Joshua looked at each of them in turn. This won't be easy. We'll be in the heart of enemy territory with no backup and no second chances. But I know we can do this. We have to. For Earth. For all the children waiting to come home. The team boarded their stealth shuttle, the engine humming to life. As they broke atmosphere, Iridia Prime loomed before them, a blood-red orb against the blackness of space. Somewhere down there, in the maze of factories and fortresses, lay the key to humanity's survival. They had come this far, fought this hard, lost so much. Joshua gripped the arm of his command chair, his eyes fixed on the view screen. One way or another, this war would end on Iridia Prime. He would make sure of it. The shuttle dove toward the planet's surface, alarms blaring as enemy anti-aircraft fire filled the sky. Joshua felt the deck shudder beneath his feet. He reached for his rifle, the metal cold and familiar in his hands. It was time to finish this. The stealth shuttle touched down on the outskirts of the Iridian weapons facility, its cloaking systems shimmering as they disengaged. Joshua and his team emerged from the craft, their exoskeletons humming with power. They had one mission: infiltrate the facility, steal the plans for the Doomsday device, and destroy the production line. As they approached the towering structure, alarms began to blare. Heavily armed Iridian guards poured from the entrance, their plasma rifles spitting deadly bolts of energy. Joshua and his team took cover, returning fire with their own advanced weapons. "Chen, get that door open," Joshua shouted over the din of battle. Thompson, Nakamura lay down, suppressing fire. Corporal Chen darted forward, his fingers flying over the control panel. The massive blast doors groaned open, revealing a labyrinth of corridors and automated defense turrets. The team pushed forward, their exoskeletons absorbing the brunt of the enemy fire. They fought their way through the facility, room by room, leaving a trail of Iridian corpses in their wake. At last they reached the central control room. Chen hacked into the system, his eyes scanning the holographic displays. "Got it," he exclaimed, holding up a data crystal. "The plans for the Doomsday device." Joshua nodded grimly. "Good work. Now let's plant those explosives and get the hell out of here." They moved quickly, setting charges at key structural points throughout the facility, but as they made their way back to the entrance, a new threat emerged. A hulking figure stepped from the shadows, its form a twisted amalgam of Iridian and machine. It was a super soldier, genetically engineered to be the ultimate killing machine. The creature let out a deafening roar, charging forward with blinding speed. It slammed into Sergeant Thompson, sending him flying across the room. Private Nakamura opened fire, but her rounds ricocheted harmlessly off the super soldier's armored hide. Joshua engaged the monstrosity in hand-to-hand combat, his vibro knife flashing. But even with his exoskeleton's enhanced strength, he was outmatched. The super soldier grabbed him by the throat, lifting him off the ground. Corporal Chen leapt onto the creature's back, jamming a plasma grenade into a gap in its armor. "Go!" he shouted. "Get the plans out of here!" Private Nakamura pulled Joshua to his feet, dragging him towards the exit. They stumbled out of the facility, the explosion from Chen's grenade ringing in their ears. But the super soldier emerged from the flames, its body charred and twisted but still very much alive. It lunged at Joshua and Nakamura, its claws tearing through their exoskeletons like paper. Nakamura shoved Joshua aside, taking the brunt of the blow. She fell to the ground, her chest a bloody ruin. Joshua screamed in rage and grief, emptying his rifle into the super soldier's face. The creature staggered back, its head a mass of shattered bone and sparking circuitry. With a final desperate effort, Joshua dragged himself to the stealth shuttle, the data crystal clutched tight in his hand. He collapsed into the pilot's seat, tears streaming down his face. Behind him, the weapons facility erupted in a series of massive explosions, the charges planted by his team reducing it to rubble. The doomsday device was destroyed, but at a terrible cost. Joshua piloted the shuttle into orbit, his heart heavy with the loss of his friends. But there was no time to grieve. The war still raged, and Earth's forces needed the information he carried. In the weeks that followed, the tide of the war turned. With the doomsday device destroyed and the plans in human hands, Earth's military launched a full-scale invasion of Iridia Prime. The fighting was brutal, the Iridians defending their homeworld with a savagery born of desperation. But slowly, inexorably, the human forces pushed them back. Joshua, now a colonel, led the charge. His exoskeleton was a blur of motion, his vibro knife and plasma rifle dealing death with every strike. He fought for his fallen comrades, for the children stolen from their homes, for the future of humanity. In the final battle, the Iridians unleashed a devastating biological weapon, a virus that consumed all organic matter in its path. The human forces, caught in the open, were decimated. Joshua, his exoskeleton battered and failing, led the survivors to a waiting dropship. They lifted off just as the virus consumed the planet's surface, leaving Iridia Prime a lifeless husk. The war was over. Humanity had emerged victorious, but at a staggering cost. Billions dead, entire worlds laid waste. Joshua returned to New Eden, his heart heavy with grief and loss. He found Liam and Arya waiting for him, their faces etched with the same pain he felt. Together they set about rebuilding the colony, creating a safe haven for the orphans of the war. It was a long and difficult process, but slowly life began to return to the shattered world. Years passed. The scars of the war began to fade, but the memories never would. Joshua, now an old man, stood atop a hill overlooking the thriving colony. He thought of Emma, of Chen and Nakamura, of all the brave souls who had given their lives so that others might live. Their sacrifices had not been in vain. Humanity had survived, had learned the hard lessons of war. And as Joshua watched the children of New Eden play in the sun, he knew that the future was in good hands. The Iridian War was over, but the story of humanity's resilience, of their unbreakable spirit, had only just begun. And Joshua, the Lion of New Eden, would be remembered as the hero who had led them through the darkest of times into the light of a new dawn. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.